Good evening, everyone. I'll call this special meeting of Brighton Council to order at 5:00 p.m. on January 31st. I will note that this special meeting has been called by a petition of the majority of council, the petitioners being Councillors Anderson, LeBlanc, Rowley, and Tadman. I'll also note that we have received regrets from Councillor Tadman for this evening's meeting. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and in the best interests of public health and safety, this meeting will be held in person for members of council and staff and some staff only, and invite the public to join us via our Municipality of Brighton YouTube channel. I'll begin with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga-Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. With that, we move to the approval of the agenda with a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, second by Councillor Rowley, that Council approve the January 31st, 2022 special meeting of Council as presented. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor?
I'll be voting against approving the agenda only because there's not enough information for me. I have complained about not having enough information for closed meetings. And so I just want to make sure that's clear.
Understood. Thank you very much. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, second by Councillor Rowley. The council resolve itself into closed session January 31st, 2022 at 5:01 p.m. Pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Subsection 239(2)(b), personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically employer review. And before I open the floor to discussion, I will note that if we do resolve ourselves into closed session, we will end the live YouTube stream for the duration of the meeting. So is there any discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
Is it too late to amend the agenda?
Yes, we just passed the motion to accept the agenda.
Can I put a motion on the floor?
There is a motion on the floor. It's a motion to resolve ourselves into closed session. Is there any further discussion? I will note that the closed session motion reads that we are seeking to close the meeting to the public to discuss a personal matter about an identifiable individual, and then note that the subject for discussion is an employer review. As council, we are the employer, and therefore any review should A, not be conducted by ourselves, and B, not be discussed in closed session. That would simply not be in keeping with our duty to transparency and accountability. We have no indication in this note of employer review what the personal matter is, nor who the identifiable individual may be, as no report was made part of the closed session package, as the Deputy Mayor noted. To that point, there really is no closed session package before us. In my discussion with some of the petitioners, I have learned about a number of issues that the petitioners wish to discuss in closed, and I am concerned that these issues are either not policy-based, but operational in nature, or not in keeping with our duty to remain open and accountable to the public, or not related to an employer review, or worse, in violation of our code of conduct as it relates to our council staff relations policy. I am advised that there is a wish to discuss a director in the municipality, but that the petitioners have not approached the CAO to discuss their concerns. I am advised that the petitioners wish to discuss a human resources investigation that was conducted in the fall of 2021 and has been closed by the investigator, which was reported out to council in October of last year. I am advised that the petitioners wish to discuss an email that was received from a former employee of the municipality that would be inappropriate as the subject matter has been investigated and the investigation is closed and was reported out to council. I have been advised that members of staff have approached councillors to discuss their concerns with their supervisors, managers, and/or work situations. This is concerning as members of council are not managers in the municipality and should be directing employees to their supervisors and/or the CAO. I'm sure this is equally concerning to the CAO, no doubt, who should likely remind staff about the chain of command and the appropriateness of approaching councillors with job-related concerns. It is equally concerning as these conversations and the resulting productivity issues are likely violations of our code of conduct as it relates to the council staff relations policy, and has, I'm told, created animosity among staff toward municipal managers. I'm advised by some of the petitioners that they have concerns with the productivity of some staff members. However, these are concerns that should be and are being dealt with through the collective agreement process. And while that process can be frustratingly slow, it is the only process by which we can deal with these concerns as they relate to labor relations. Equally concerning is that these productivity issues may very well be caused by council's interference in the municipal staff chain of command. I am also advised that some of the petitioners do not wish to have the CAO present for the closed session. However, the CAO is the only direct report to council, and if the petitioners have concerns about the management of the municipality, the CAO must be present to hear those concerns in order to offer advice and/or to be able to appropriately react to those concerns. If indeed this is an employer review, then it is not something we may seek to discuss in closed session. I should also point out that if I had called this meeting with this motion and no report and no information, it would be widely broadcast throughout our community that I was trying to hold a secret meeting without the proper information for council to make a decision. If, as I suspect, council wishes to conduct a management review and/or management program review and/or program services review of some sort, that should be requested and directed through the normal notice of motion channels as prescribed in our procedure bylaw. And I would be happy to help draft that notice of motion to ensure that council receives a review and advice to aid us and our management team moving forward. The request of such a review may, however, not be discussed in closed session, but requested through the normal open session notice of motion channels, and should very likely have been discussed during the budget process, given the cost of such a review. So, council, there is my dilemma. As it stands right now, the motion before us is not in order. To be sure, I have provided all of the information I have just read to you to our integrity commissioner, who also acts as our closed meeting investigator. And they concur that the motion as it stands is not in order, that an employer review should never be discussed in closed session, and that many of the other listed items are operational in nature and are the purview of senior staff to manage, and would likely violate our code of conduct. If we were to undertake a management review, only the final report may be discussed in closed session if it identifies an individual or individuals, if it identifies a personal matter, and/or if it identifies employee or employment concerns in the municipality. In order to aid council in moving forward, I have drafted a motion that we may read or may wish to read as a notice of motion this evening, or may wish to consider it and bring forward as a notice of motion on February 7th. We're still dealing with the motion to go into closed session. However, I will read to you the draft that I have put together for your consideration before I call the vote. Whereas certain members of council have noted concerns with municipal management, and whereas municipal management undertook a human resources investigation in the autumn of 2021, and whereas certain members of council may have involved themselves with staffing issues and/or interfered with municipal management authority, and whereas members of council have noted some productivity concerns in the municipality, which may be related to certain levels of council interference. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to request that the Municipal Integrity Commissioner undertake an investigation into possible code of conduct violations as it relates to the municipal council staff relations policy. And further, that council directs staff to obtain 3 quotes from qualified human resources firms to conduct a management review. And further, that council directs that the human resources firms be advised that all members of council shall be interviewed as part of the management review. And further, that the scope of work for a management review shall include, but not be limited to, improvement opportunities for the overall management of the municipality, including processes and ratepayer satisfaction, the need for any changes to the overall management of the municipality, including resource needs, and the need to simplify or remove processes hindering effective management. And further, that council directs staff to bring forward the quotes at the first regular council meeting in March for a council decision. The motion before us remains to proceed into camera. However, as I've noted, this motion is out of order. How would council wish to proceed at this stage? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. You made a bunch of comments a few minutes ago. Most I agree with. Some maybe not. Am I allowed to make a comment as well regarding your concern of micromanaging?
Yes, if the intent is to move forward with some sort of notice of motion in open session.
I'm supportive of your notice of motion.
Okay, so let me declare this out of order. I'm going to declare the motion to proceed into closed session out of order, and then I'll open the floor for discussion around the notice,
Okay.
including
but
my
you're-
comments around micromanagement.
Okay, thank
Fair
you.
enough? So, Madam Clerk, I am declaring the motion out of order. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Question of clarity. So if you're declaring it out of order, that means we are not going into a closed session.
That is
today.
correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Councillor Rowley, I made some comments about what you're referring to as micromanagement, so I'll let you make comments around that.
Correct. Okay, so as you stated, there are some members of council who have various issues within operations that are of a concern. I don't see this as micromanaging, as council is identifying areas of concern and asking the person responsible to report back to council. Given that the CAO is responsible and reports to council, I would understand that it is appropriate in the terms of council's responsibility to oversee all municipal services. That we identify issues and that the CAO could report back, and that would as well serve as a way to document any shortfalls, serve as a basis to move with any subsequent action. Similar processes that would take place as well if council was concerned over an infrastructure issue that affects the whole municipality. Discussion of the issue, CAO directed to prepare a report, and approval on how to correct the situation. Those are concerns, and those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. I don't think we're very far off the same page then. It sounds like we just, how we go about it is really the question this evening.
Exactly.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I'm all for having discussions with our CAO and with council and talking about areas of concern. And I understand sometimes it's hard to figure out how to fit those discussions into our procedural bylaw and the way we're supposed to conduct ourselves as council. But I'd rather we talk about it and go about it the right way than to go about it the wrong way. We know what happens, right? We know what happens when we go about things the wrong way. We do get our hands slapped, if not worse. So I don't want to go down that road. So I'm thankful that we can have this discussion, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to come up with a good resolution.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I did read a notice of motion. I can reread it, and we can decide whether that's appropriate to put as a notice this evening so that we can vote on it on February 7th as a motion, or whether members of council would prefer that I send the wording out to you as an email for your consideration to bring forward as a notice of motion for the 7th of February meeting.
I would like to see this done sooner than later. So I would say that we move the notice of motion so that staff can get on, get these quotes or RFPs or whatever it is required for this review to take place sooner than later.
Councillor Rowley, would you consider yourself to be the mover of the notice of motion that I read out?
Could I have a look at it in black and white myself for 1 minute? I'll come again.
Need a page system.
What's that?
Like in Parliament where they have pages to run papers to the members. Sorry, Councillor Rowley, while you're reading that, I forgot to ask if there's any declarations of pecuniary interest, and if so, please state the general nature thereof. Right. There are none noted.
May I ask a question?
You may.
Okay. Regarding whether the Integrity Commissioner or Human Resources undertake an investigation. Oh, okay, so that's possible code of conduct violations. Are we going to, as far as the review with a qualified human resources firm, will this include all staff to be interviewed? Will all staff be able to bring their concerns? Will they all be interviewed by this human
if-
resources firm?
Certainly, if that's the wish, of council as part of the scope, then the answer would be yes, but we should include it.
Exactly.
In the
I'm not
notice.
reading it there, so that's why,
Yeah.
that would be my one concern.
We should include it in the notice because that would be a cost factor that would need to be considered by the
Correct.
HR investigator or HR consultant.
Right,
So yes, I
okay.
will make a note and we'll figure out how to add that
Thank
to
you.
it. Deputy Mayor?
If this is a notice motion tonight, when will it come before council as a motion?
On February 7th.
There's just, there's a lot there, and I would prefer to actually read it. I would prefer to have the time to read it and make sure, because we're actually also, there's a dollar value tied to that as well. I'll go with whatever the majority is going with on this, but I would prefer to have a notice motion at our next meeting, so we have time to read it and think about it and figure out whether we prefer things to change or whether there's other wording, but anyway.
I appreciate what you're saying, and that would be my preference as well, but in the interest of helping some members of council move a concern forward, their concern forward, I'm prepared to consider this notice this evening. For council's interest, I will forward the wording once we have it worked out to all members of council and the clerk this evening. I think I can probably manage it this evening. So that way we have a week with it. Councillor Anderson?
I'm not confused, but I'm here tonight because I wanted to, I thought there was enough information that I didn't have. I came here to get information before going on to bringing in all kinds of professionals and adding cost to the residents. And I don't know the magnitude of what we're talking. I have no idea about the magnitude of what we're going to be talking about. I know
That's
there's
why typically we have reports brought forward so that we have something to discuss.
And so being here tonight and having maybe not gone the right route, I feel resentful to that, but resentful might not be the right word, but I like, obviously we need to move on with this. There's enough information going within this council that we need to obviously move on something, but I want to make sure we're doing it right. So I'm listening to what you're saying. You've obviously done the research and you've got the background and the know-how of what we're doing. So I want to make sure it's right for the people we're doing. If we're going to have an investigation, we're going to draw in all the employees in on this and all that. Are we doing the right thing? When will we decide the scope of this?
That's what this notice of motion would decide. We would
So
be
on the
providing staff, senior staff, with the scope of work to move forward with a quote, to get 3 quotes for council to consider for an HR consultant to provide this review.
So at that point, if we decide that the scope is only minimal, we can decide the amount, what we need to move on next, or
No. Well, so I'll say this, the notice of motion will read the scope. We can always make alterations to that scope of work at the February 7th meeting through the motion, if we wanted to.
All right. Yeah, this must be too hard for anybody to follow because I'm having difficult following it myself. So not having enough information to even move on at this point. It seems awkward, but obviously we've got counselors here that it's touched them more than maybe others. And the information is really important that the air is clear on this council. So I need to see it through. And whatever way we'll see it through appropriately is way I'll go with. So I'll support the group.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe wording won't be appropriate. Hopefully it is, and I'm not breaking a code of conduct. I came here the same as Councillor Anderson to get information to do this, but when I read this motion, I'll use the word, no, I better not use that. I see it's all about council and councillors and members of council. If we're councillors and we get our blind eyes on what's going on in the municipality and the operation, well, if we're going to have professionals here, we should also have an evaluation to get questions to council on the overall operation of the municipality and the staff.
Do you have questions about the operations?
No, I'm just saying this is what this is. This is just about council.
No, sir, it's not.
No,
I read this, it's about council.
There's two whereas statements that mention code of conduct and council interference. And there's one direction statement about council, possible code of conduct violations, but the rest is about a management review.
So if it's a management review, are the company that you're hiring to do this, that you're going to go get 3 quotes, are they going to be able to interview the employees impartially without saying what they found and saying what employee said what? So they can get a through thing?
I can't answer how an independent reviewer will conduct their review. I would think that if we hire a qualified human resources consultant, they will proceed in a professional manner that will allow them to offer advice to council and senior staff on the overall management of the corporation.
Yep. Okay.
Councillor Rowley?
Thank you.
You want this?
So this is council's motion to direct staff to hire an outside HR consultant. Will the findings and the results of that report come directly to council before it goes to staff?
We can include that in the scope of work, if that's the wish of council.
I would like to include that in the motion. Please.
You have a question, Councillor Anderson?
Well, let's take some steps here. Could that not come after we've had on the 7th or whatever date we would discuss this? Or
We can certainly make alterations to the motion on the 7th, but I think we should try to get the wording for it this evening.
okay,
Because my intention would be to read it as a notice of motion into the record so that we can vote on it, discuss it and vote on it. We can't discuss it tonight. I know we are. In theory, we can't discuss it tonight. We're only discussing it to get the right wording so that we're comfortable moving forward. And then we can discuss it more openly, make alterations and vote on it on the
Okay.
7th of February.
I'm good with that.
Because this is a notice motion, we're not voting on anything tonight. We're just saying yes, but we're not saying anything. because it's just a notice. of motion. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just,
I just want to try to get the wording,
I understand. I'm
Yeah.
trying to just make sure I'm clear
Yeah.
on this
but
one.
we won't be debating the motion this evening.
Wait.
So there has been a request to add um, something like, and further that council directs that the human resources firms be advised that all members of staff shall be interviewed as part of the management review. And a line that reads that council directs that the human resources firm be advised that the final report will be issued directly to council. So I'm going to read it. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to, I don't want to make this more difficult.
Yeah.
There's just a lot in there, and I think as a member of council, I might have a hard time voting on the whole thing as a whole, and maybe it's better to pick it apart next time, but just, that is a possibility, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it's just a lot. There's a lot of requests and there are a lot of suggestions, so I just want to make sure.
If there's a request to separate
Yeah.
the matter out, then we would vote on, I would think we would vote on the first part being the integrity commissioner as one, and then the second part being the overall human resources as a second part. And then if we need to, we can further subdivide that. Okay, so it might get a bit complicated, but for the purposes of procedure, we can go down that road. Councilor Rowley.
Thank you. I'm supportive of that too, Deputy Mayor. However, I want to make sure that we have everything in there. Now we can pull it apart next week. If we're missing something, then, and we approve a motion that maybe something will come out later, it will, regardless if it's the human resources firm, it will cost us more money. I would like to see it all in there initially, and what we pull out is what we pull out. But if we don't have it there, we don't have an opportunity to bring it back.
So the notice of motion that we have drafted so far would read, whereas certain members of council have noted concerns with municipal management, and whereas municipal management undertook a human resources investigation in the autumn of 2021, and whereas certain members of council may have involved themselves with staffing issues and or interfered with municipal management authority, and whereas members of council have noted some productivity concerns in the municipality which may be related to certain levels of council interference. Now therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to request that the Municipal Integrity Commissioner undertake an investigation into possible code of conduct violations as it relates to the municipal council staff relations policy. And further that council directs staff to obtain 3 quotes from a qualified human resources firm to conduct a management review. And further that council directs that the human resources firms be advised that all members of council shall be interviewed as part of the management review. And further that council directs that the human resources firms be advised that all members of staff shall be interviewed as part of the management review. And further that council directs that the human resources firms be advised that the final report shall be issued directly to council. And further, that the scope of work for a management review shall include, but not be limited to, improvement opportunities for the overall management of the municipality, including processes and ratepayer satisfaction, the need for any changes to the overall management of the municipality, including resource needs, and the need to simplify or remove processes hindering effective management. And further, the council directs staff to bring forward quotes at the first regular council meeting in March for a council decision.
I will move that motion.
Seconder? We have no notice of motion. That moves me into question period. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for question period this evening? I have a confirmatory bylaw moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton special council meeting held on January 31st, 2022. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. I will send out that wording if someone would like to work on the wording. It's clear that some people don't like portions of it. So if you'd like to bring a notice of motion forward for February 7th, using the wording or not, I'm not married to anything here. But I think it because we couldn't get a seconder, I feel that maybe some of the wording was not what members of council were looking for. So I'll send that off to all members of council. And I have a motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, and I'll need a seconder that the January 31st, 2022 special council meeting adjourn at 5:32 p.m. Is there a seconder? Councillor Anderson. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried.